So this is the last tab on this ship. We're going to get rid of this particular setup for the kitchen on this ship. Change that out, make it look more pristine. So we got to figure out how to make this fit. Go through and see what stoves, food workbenches there are to put back in there. I'm going to go with the conventional one. The other ones I looked at, I chose to just go with the regular one. So we're going to take this and we're going to push it out of the way. Never be too quick to just delete something, but we're going to push that out of the way. We're going to copy another panel into the place that has that removed. That's all one piece. That kitchenette is actually a side piece, and it's all built together and not, you can't break it apart. So we're just going to copy another side piece that doesn't have that, and we're going to build our own. So we just duplicate it, add in the coordinates, drop it in place, and voila, that's all there is to that. It's really easy. Those will be all whole numbers. The only fraction will be the z-axis, and that'll always be minus 1.25. And so that's done. Now let's see if we can make this oven range fit in that space without changing the space. The in other words, don't expand the wall. We're going to stick with the same amount of area. We're just going to open up and give ourselves that curve back there. We're actually going to push it in there and do some overlap, like the bathroom. It actually is square, and so it gives me an index of how far that stove can hang through the wall, and not clip through the side of the ship and cause a problem. So I do a whole lot of fractional numbers here to get that to fit in place, and we're going to skip past all of that and just get it set in there for the sake of the process of watching this and seeing what it takes to actually do it. All of the misses don't count. Only thing that counts is what actually worked. So that's all we're going to show. But it fits in there. It fits in there pretty nicely. I get it away from the wall so it's not clipping through the wall and it looks right. Um, I get it to where it fits in there. I put a couple of counter pieces next to it that look like it's right. The pipes up there don't really work for me. In the kitchen, it doesn't blend with what I was trying to do. So I take some panels and I fit some panels in there that are more decorative. And that was hours of work getting all those sized out and put in place and figuring out what I wanted to do there and getting that done. So I did spend a whole lot of time figuring out how to build this out to something that I liked, but I like the end result. So one of the advantages of already having a bunch of pieces built now is that I can go copy them and I don't have to build them again. I can just grab them where they are. And so I'm going to grab this already assembled refrigerator and we're going to stick it in there. You can actually populate the refrigerator, but the thing is that the way that the instancing works, um, items that are lootable that you just leave laying around, they only show up when you place a ship that is persistent. If it's not a persistent ship, if not a persistent item, it's not locked into an instance, and so those items would disappear. So in order to populate the refrigerator and make the refrigerator look like it's populated, it would be items that you couldn't loot. It would just be a visual, but that's all it is anyway. I never really eat the food, and the food wouldn't be there if I tried to put it in there. So I'll get some food and I'll stack it and I'll instance it up and then I'll put it in there and then the refrigerator will look like it's stocked. Now, this is the finished product. Notice those chairs are black, but if you look in the creation kit, they're stainless steel. So something's not translating there, but they lose their skin if you edit them. And if you don't edit them, they retain their skin, the material covering. And I hadn't noticed that until I was rewatching this video as I was cutting it. It was like going, "Oh, those chairs are black. I thought I replaced them. I know I replaced them by this time." So I actually copied this um, coffee bar structure from one of my old mods and brought it in and had to break it apart and ungroup everything and then so that I could regroup it under a new name and so it wouldn't have a dependency on the other mod. I wanted it to be completely separate. But what it tells me is that I can grab assets that I've already created from those other mods. It's a little bit of an arduous process because you have to break them all apart, make sure I don't scatter anything, lose anything, or wind up with anything that's still tagged to the other mod because I don't want any dependencies on the other mod. I want this to be its own dependency, which its own dependency still means it is dependent on the um, base game mods, the empty heads mob, and so on and so forth. Now, this picture here is actually on the wall of this bathroom, but when you pop a window or a doorway, that structure piece gets removed automatically and changed out. And I wasn't thinking at the moment when I did that. I knew that. I see those chairs; they're stainless steel. So one of these things is not like the other. I've still got some things to learn about the skinning, but that picture I knew that because I put the sword on the wall for the time when that was out. But I, doing a lot of hours, not I make mistakes. I just take it and I move it and I put it over here on this other wall. And which it can be a little risky putting anything on those walls because it's going to pop a doorway. And sometimes the doorway acts up because it thinks that there's something there that's in the way and it gets confused when it tries to change that stuff out. So this may or may not work. I may have to remove that too. It's just a matter of popping something in there and seeing if I have problems with it. But sometimes what you'll get is you'll get a reaction of that doorway won't spawn. You'll have a door there, but the wall will still be impassable. And so I would have to go in and just unsnap this picture and move it and have that wall clean, or find something else that didn't interfere with it, or it may not interfere at all. Not all my habs and hab doorways will react the same way. So it's a one of those things. It's one of the reasons why when I build something out, I have to go and snap something to every location. And it's not just snap something, it's snap everything possible that can be fitted, like a cockpit might be fitted or a docker might be fitted, uh, a window, so on and so forth, various habs. There's a snap behavior and a list of how to that names each manufacturer and each part and what the snap behavior is. And not everything always is going to act the same when you go in there and fiddle with it. So you got to test all that stuff. Sometimes you make a discovery later on about all of that. But basically, I've got this where I'm satisfied with it. I've got it built out. This I've decided to make it like a guest quarters. These beds here is you would think you have four beds there because visually you do, but technically you only have two of them that will spawn a get in bed prompt. But it's a simple sitting area. not too overcomplicated, but it's nice and pleasant. And I like that coffee bar. I specifically went back in to go get that coffee bar. And there's a couple of other things that I might get also. What I'm going to do after this is I'm adding the shattered space um, mod to the dependency list for this mod so that I can get assets out of shattered space to build the next habs. And the next habs will be specifically for this next ship that I'll show you at the end of the video. But I'm right now just going in and I'm testing everything to see if it's functional. See if all of the lines line up, if there's any troublesome edges or bizarre graphics that are glitching. Um, See if it feels right, looks right, if it's usable the way I expected it to be usable. And it's like, the picture. Wouldn't have noticed the picture because I didn't have anything snapped to it here. But you go in and it's, oh yeah, I got a window there. That's why I do a walkthrough and snap everything. Um, I'm going to screw up. I'm going to make mistakes. So I've got to go through and methodically check everything uh, to see where did I screw up because I'm going to. It's just going to happen. I spend a lot of hours. I get tired and I'm old and I'll screw up. So, but I don't care. I'll fix it. So all of this stuff. I like the I like the what I did with the covering those pipes. I think that worked out well. But I've still got something to learn with these skinning these, doing these material changes. If you click on the extra tab when you do an edit on an object, there's a materials button, and if you have a list of materials available, um, and click on it and it moves over to the other window, the active window, and then you close it all out and it changes and it's going to work. That's what I've learned so far. If you move it over and when you exit the edit and it doesn't change, it's not going to work. There's something I've still got to learn with all of that. But you got to make sure you can sit on everything because sometimes you can put a chair out and you can't sit in it, or it's blocked. Something's blocking it. So if I want to be able to sit in it and use it, and it's not just a visual um, display, just for the ambiance. If you want it to be useful, and typically I want everything that's got to use to be useful, to be usable. I utilize my corners, but I've got to keep those plugs open. So once you build out a ship, you could go in and put a rug on that or chairs in there or whatever once you've got your layout. But before you have your layout, you need to leave the options open so that you have your flexibility. If you put a rug over that and then you try to have a ladder punch through, you come through the ladder, you can't get back because the rug won't let you, but you can go through from one side. It's problematic. So you got to test everything. But nothing's broken. Everything, when you go in and and do edits, when I go in and do edits, I can touch something and break it. So, and then you're doing your work all along, so you're saving. Um, that wall panel we were just looking at, that one there, that color changed. It should be shiny. So like I say, I've still got something to learn with the skinning, the material swaps. But I go through and walk through once I've finalized everything to make sure that I didn't screw anything up someplace else. So I'll go in here and I'll grab some assets to use that I've already created. Um, and the way that you got to steer around, you can snap on something and twist it out of place or whatever. So um, it's always good that before you move on, that you go through and check the totality of everything that you've touched to make sure you didn't break anything. Make sure I didn't break anything, 'cause I'll break stuff. It just happens. Some people are capable of being more focused and more cautious. I can be a little haphazard and running on low sleep and uh, visitors. You didn't tell me we had visitors. I still got those, whoever they are, popping up in my ship. It's a new feature, I guess. I don't know. You have crew whether you want it or not. Yeah, I don't know what the deal is, whether it's because the ship's parked here for a while or something to do with some specific cabs, or we'll see when I start playing again if they go away. I went ahead and looted those. I didn't check to see if I can stuff something back in them. If I can, I need to do that. But I think I think everything is done on these mods for this ship. I think this ship is done. Of course, over time, once I start playing in them and walking around in them, or coming across new assets, I might change some minor things out, some decor, or I'll build something new with another idea. Um, but I like the outcome. This configuration has a lot of plants and various of the same kind of displays, so the same theme links throughout the ship. And the utility between habs, I get some benefit of the habs are not just redundant, sit here, sit there. They actually have some functional changes. So now then, I think that ship is done. It's time to move on to the next few halves. Part of it is like, for instance, my workshop is a bottom, and I'm going to need to make a top for this next ship. So I'm plugging in shattered space so that I can get assets from shattered space. And I'm going to see about using those assets on this next build, because I'm going to build two new habs. These are some of the artwork that's there. So there's some new pictures, there's some new furniture style, a whole lot of shiny abstract is there. Um, that can get redundant after a while, and the shiny, I'm either going to have to learn how to do the material swaps, or it's just not going to be. Um, it's going to be pretty limited. But there was other things that there's a whole lot of locations associated with the city, various buildings, and so the skins that are available, the various assets that are available, though they're similar theme, they're scattered and there's a variation of them. And I haven't gone and found all of the instances yet to go raid and snap assets off the wall, duplicate assets off the wall. But there are some here, some decor, different rugs, candles, wind chimes, shiny walls, paintings. Um, there's an array of that stuff, and a whole lot of places that I have to go find out what the instance name is to go walk through them and grab assets that I want to use, and I'm not real sure how all of that's necessarily going to work because I'm still going to need the basics, beds and the functionality, the chairs and so forth. And so I've got these two habs that I need to populate, duplicating the weapon workshop to a top version on this ship should be pretty easy because I have all those assets and it's not that complicated. So I just go in and grab a top empty and duplicate the stuff. But this empty engineering bay, and then that living quarter. So there's only three habs plus a companionway. That's all there is on this ship. So it's going to utilize these 3x1s. um, it's going to compress a lot of stuff into those 3x1s. And I say stuff, I mean sitting area, bed, um, the kind of features that I like to have. And so, but I really like this ship. I like the simplicity of it. I like the way that it's put together and its look. And I'm going to see about giving the interior a look that comes from the assets of Shattered Space. See, I'll have to dig through what they've got. I'm not sure yet what all they have and to the degree it's going to be useful or how I'm going to feel about it. I've got to go do a walkthrough. I've got to go find all the instances and walk through them again and see what I snap off the wall that I like. And then when I start looking around at this stuff to build it, see what I've got. Um, to keep in mind what gets replaced and what doesn't get replaced when you have a window or a door. But that living quarter I was just in, I'll probably do something similar to what I've done before, but uh, see if I can do it with the Shattered Space assets. So this is the top, and that's just populated from outpost populating. I kind of like this idea, but this wouldn't work because if this hab ever gets something snapped to the back end of it, a 1x1 or some other kind of connectivity, same with this. But all of this here, this end, um, has portals that those walls change. So it makes it complicated. It makes it where you can only use the area between the portals, the windows and doors, because those walls change. Um, unless you lock it down where you're specifically making something where the walls don't change, and I think that's a bad idea. Um, the creation kit does facilitate changing those walls, making replacement parts and such. That gets pretty involved. That's something that definitely not Creation Kit 101. that's that's more advanced because I'd have to go in and build my own meshes in Blender or such, and then nif them together and grain them into the swap item. Um, it's a lot of steps, and I don't have all the information on how to do that, but it can be done. But I'm not going to be doing that with this. I'm not there yet. Uh, that's down the road, making those wall swaps. So I'm basically looking through the various lists here, but I'm pretty well just going to stick with what I've got. That's what I've determined on this. I've got just these three halves. So it's going to be that 3 by 1 Damos living, empty living. It's going to get converted. Um, then the Teo 3 by 1 engineering bay, and we'll see what we come up with.